This tutorial, it really comes from the Chapter 10 group test, and so it's kind of a combination of things we've learned before. So in this case, we have quadratic formula and solving by factoring. So since this is a review, I'm going to do them a little more quickly than normal. So quadratic formula, you need to just know it straight out of the bat, which is first you need this. To do quadratic formula in the first place, you need standard form. Standard form is a parabola that everything's on one side. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You have to have 0 already in this side to use the quadratic formula. And in this problem, we don't have 0 here. So your first step is going to be to subtract 7 from both sides of the equation to get 0. So once you subtract 7, this problem turns into 2x squared, then still minus 5x, and then 4 minus 7 is negative 3, and then since the 7's cancel out, you now have equals 0. So now that you have the problem in standard form, now you can apply the quadratic formula. And from here, search YouTube. There's a bazillion quadratic formula videos, but here it is in short. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, then all over 2 times a. There you go. So next up, you got to know what a, b, and c are. In our case, well, in every case, a, b, and c are the coefficients of the variables. A is the x squared coefficient, so for us, a is 2. B is always the coefficient of the x term. In this case, negative 5 is b. And then finally, c is the constant term with no variable, and for us, it's negative 3. So now we have the quadratic formula and the value of our coefficients. Plug and chug. Now when you plug into the quadratic formula, I highly recommend that you first just set up parentheses. So we have x equals, and instead of putting negative b, I'm going to put negative parentheses. So I have a spot to put my b. Then plus or minus the square root of, instead of b squared, put parentheses squared and plug in later. Minus 4 times ac, I'll put minus 4 times parentheses and parentheses. I promise you, the parentheses will save you later on from many common mistakes. Then over 2 times not a, but 2 times parentheses. Alright, now that I have the problem set up, let's plug in our values. So this was negative b, and b already is negative. So let's put negative 5 in place of this parenthesis. And here you can already see why I put parentheses all over the place. I get less confused about double negatives as long as I have placeholders to put my numbers in. If you didn't put parentheses, you'd have to mentally keep track of negative 5 is positive 5, but many students will skip that and just put negative 5 overall. It's not. It's negative b, and b is negative, so you have this double negative going on here. So there's that. All right, continuing. B squared, so negative 5 squared, minus 4ac, a is 2, c was negative 3, and then 2 times the value of a, which is 2 times 2. So that's my numbers plugged in. Let's now simplify. So this equals a double negative is a positive. Under our square root, negative 5 squared is positive 25. We have a negative times a negative, so this is going to be positive something. And 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. On the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. And just off to the side, I want to simplify this guy. That would be 25 plus 24 is 49. And since it's under a square root, what is square root of 49? So last steps here, we have 5 plus or minus. Remember, all this stuff ended up being 49, and if you square root 49, you get 7. Then all over 4. So at this point, you got to branch off into 2 possibilities. Either the answer could be something plus 7 or something minus 7. Let me scroll down to give us more space for this problem. Give me one sec. Alright, that's better. So one possibility is we have 5 plus 7 all divided by 4. And the second possibility is that we have 5 minus 7, then all over 4. So in the first case, 5 plus 7 is 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So one answer is x equals 3. Second possibility, 5 minus 7 is negative 2, and still divided by 4. If you reduce this, it'd be negative a half. So x equals 3 or negative 1/2 is the final solution for this one. If you want more practice on quadratic formula, go to YouTube, type in quadratic formula, and there'll be plenty of problems for you to practice. Always press pause before the teacher works it out, and then press play and check your work. All right, let's back up and kill off all the work here. So next up, we're going to solve the same exact problem by factoring. In fact, let me go back to this. So we still need to equal 0. To solve by factoring, you still need standard form, so I'm going to continue the problem from this step right here. Now factoring, in this case, let's just do a diamond rectangle. So if you need help factoring, that's a different video. This one's just going to be done quickly. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. The middle term is negative 5. We want two numbers that multiply to negative 6 and add to negative 5. I'm pretty sure it's going to be 1 and 6. To get negative 5, it's got to be 1 and negative 6. It works. These two guys multiply to negative 6 and they add up to negative 5. So now let's build our rectangle. In the top left corner will always be the first term, 2x squared. Bottom right corner is always the last term. And then the diamond gave us the other two corners, 1x and negative 6x. So there's 1x and negative 6x. And now for the outside of the rectangle, let's see. This will have to be 2 and 1, and the 2 has to go on this side. So 2x here, 1x here. That way it matches up with this x and that negative 6. Then x times positive 1 equals itself. And 2x times negative 3 would equal negative 6x. Then automatically this negative 3 works out because you have negative 3 times positive 1, and that's checking out. So in factored form, this problem becomes x minus 3 times 2x plus 1, and then still equals 0. At which point, we got to use the zero product property. So for zero product property, if two things multiply to be 0, then one of them has to be 0. So either this whole thing was 0, so either x minus 3 equals 0, or the other possibility is that this parenthesis was 0. So or 2x plus 1 equals 0. Now solve these guys separately, add 3 to both sides, and done. X equals positive 3. On the right hand side, subtract 1. Those cancel out. You have 2x equals negative 1. Divide by 2. And so x equals negative a half, which matches the answers we got from the quadratic formula. And they should be the same. So, cool, done. Now, if the problems are easy enough like this one, you can just do it by inspection. What minus 3 is 0? 3. Done in one step. This one, I'd say most students can do this mentally, but if you have trouble figuring out that x could equal negative a half here to cancel out the 1, then this technique is always going to work, and it's more straightforward. All right, go to YouTube and search for either quadratic formula or solving by factoring, and you'll get boatloads of videos to practice. Thanks for watching. Bye.